Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual public information meeting for State Project 126-179, which is the replacement of bridge number 6697, carrying Route 110 over Butternut Hollow Brook in Shelton, Connecticut. My name is Brianna Rattaco. I am the project engineer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation for this project. We hope everyone finds the presentation informative and will be able to address any questions or concerns you may have. And I also wanted to thank Mayor Loretti for coordinating our meeting back in July and to discuss the project and for helping make tonight's meeting happen. So available to those joining us through Zoom is the option to view captions or subtitles. So to turn on this feature, select the Show Captions button or the CC button at the bottom of your screen, then select the Speaking Language button, and then select your desired language. So before we get started with the main presentation, I wanted to walk through the goals and format for tonight's meeting. So first, I will introduce the project team, including department leadership and our consultant and liaison and design teams, and also explain how to interact with us during the meeting. Then we will have the technical portion of the presentation, which will include the condition of the existing structure, the purpose and need of the project, and the recommended design, which is progressed to a 30% design level. As I mentioned earlier, the preliminary design and the project as a whole was presented to the city of Shelton in July of this year. And following the technical presentation, we will open the forum up to your comments and questions. So there are three ways that you'll be able to communicate with us during the live question and answer session. You can submit questions via email at dotproject126-179@ct.gov as it is currently shown on the slide. You can also call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. The Q&A box can be used if you're joining us through the Zoom application, and we will explain how to use this function in more detail on the next slide. The Zoom Q&A function will only be available during tonight's meeting. The project email, voicemail, and Q&A box will be screened by the project team, and the project team will then read the questions out loud. Questions may be asked at any time during the presentation, but they will be answered at the end. There is also a project webpage where a recording of tonight's meeting will be made available, and the webpage will also include information that was explained on how to leave questions and comments for the project team. That website is portal.ct.gov/DOT Shelton 126-179. The question and comment period by email or phone will be open through October 5th, 2023. Therefore, any comments or questions that are thought of after tonight's meeting may be submitted until October 5th via email or voicemail. And please just be sure to note the project number 126-179 in your message so it can be routed to our project team. To use the Zoom Q&A function, you can select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the webinar window. The Q&A window will open as seen on the right. Then you can type the question in the text box and click enter, and it will submit the question. I'd like to now introduce the project team. So first, from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we have Bart Sweeney, the Division Chief of Bridges, Derek Lassard, Principal Engineer, Francisco Fadul, Project Manager, and myself, Brianna Rattaco, Project Engineer. Additionally, GM2 is working on the project as the department's consultant liaison engineer. So from GM2, we have Rich Armstrong, Program Manager, and Ron Sackey, Project Manager. A. DeCesar Associates is the consultant design engineer for this project, and tonight we have Art DeCesar and Julie Georges. As part of the Title VI civil rights, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. A link is provided on this slide for additional civil rights information. We would greatly appreciate if you would complete the public survey after tonight's meeting. A link and a QR code are provided on this slide. Links to both the public survey and the civil rights flyer are also available on the project website mentioned earlier. And a recording of this presentation will be posted to YouTube after the event. And closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on both Zoom and YouTube. And this is the Title VI notice to the public, which states that the Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with the Title VI. In accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with Connecticut DOT. And this slide is the Title VI notice to the public in Spanish. So I'll just pause for a moment before moving on to the next slide. All right, and with that, I will hand it over to Julie to present the project.
Thank you, Brianna. Good evening. My name is Julie Georges. I'm with the engineering firm of Ada Caesar Associates. So let's familiarize ourselves with the project area. The bridge that we plan to discuss tonight is circled in yellow. To the right is the Housatonic River, which is an important environmental resource in this area. Route 110 is shown to the left of the Housatonic River. To the north of the bridge is the Shelton Cove condo complex. To the south of the bridge is the opposite Multhrop Lane is South Bank Park, which provides access to the Housatonic River and to the Rooster Island if you have a boat. This is a close-up view which shows our bridge and the project limits defined by the yellow outline. The bridge is also highlighted in yellow. And as you can see, it's fairly short in the direction of Route 110, and it's very long in the direction of the flow of the watercourse it conveys, which is Butternut Hollow Brook. Bridges of this type are often called culverts. This view is a traditional map view of the location of the bridge. Again, the bridge we are discussing tonight is highlighted in blue. Bridges are often defined by the feature they carry over the feature they cross. And as we've already said, this bridge carries Route 110 over the Butternut Hollow Brook in the city of Shelton. In terms of its location with respect to the nearest major intersection, it's approximately 1,100 feet southwest of the intersection of Route 110 and Coram Road. Before I go any further, I'd like to spend a little time explaining some of the terms that we will be using tonight to describe our project. Looking at the diagram, the roadway surface is at the top of the slide. This is showing what is called a box culvert. The box culvert conveys the watercourse under the roadway. Box culverts are typically made of precast concrete. This is an elevation view of the box culvert as if you were standing in the watercourse looking through the box culvert. The head wall and wing walls support the embankment fill. The cutoff wall at the bottom of the box culvert and the wing walls is meant to prevent water from undermining the culvert. All state bridges and town bridges over 20 feet are inspected every 2 years by the Connecticut DOT's Bridge Safety and Evaluation Unit. The major bridge elements are assigned a condition rating on a scale of 9 to 1, with 9 being excellent condition and 1 being imminent failure. Typically, when a major bridge component reaches a condition rating of 4 or poor, a project is initiated to address its deficiencies. This is the existing bridge. It's a single span, and it was built in 1964. It carries a 2-lane roadway with 1 lane each direction, which we've already identified as being Route 110, which has an average daily traffic volume of about 12,000 vehicles a day. The roadway is 42 feet in width from curb to curb, and the structure is a 72-inch diameter, 106-foot long, asphalt-coated, corrugated metal pipe culvert with concrete head walls and wing walls. The purpose of this project is to address the structural deficiencies of State Bridge 6697, which carries Route 110 over Butternut Hollow Brook in the city of Shelton, and to provide a structure that accommodates safe travel for all roadway vehicles and provides an efficient conveyance of the brook. We have discussed the purpose of this project, and these photos help explain the need. The culvert is currently rated 4, poor, and the goal is to make the condition rating become a 7 or greater. The top right photo shows the general corrosion at the bottom of the pipe. The bottom left photo shows a void in the culvert, which is approximately 20 inches by 8 inches. There are other similar voids throughout the culvert. The bottom right is a blow-up picture of the cutoff wall, which, as we described before, helps keep the culvert from being undermined. In this case, the cutoff wall is undermined by about 24 inches. Further downstream, there are scour holes of up to 48 inches. Metal culverts do not have the longevity of concrete culverts, and the corrosion of this type is often seen in metal culverts of this age. This is nearly 60 years old. The steep grade of the culvert also contributes to the condition concerns. The steep grade produces a high velocity at the outlet, which in turn contributes to the undermining of the cutoff wall and the scour holes downstream. This is the proposed roadway plan. As the legend describes, yellow is proposed pavement, orange is the proposed structure, green is the fill required, dark gray is the new driveway to the condo complex, the blue is the water course, and the light red lines are the existing right-of-way, and the dark red lines are the right-of-way to be acquired for the project. Most of the right-of-way acquisition will be temporary, meaning it's only necessary for construction and will be returned to the owner after construction is complete. The limit of pavement involvement is 700 feet. Primarily, the roadway will be milled and repaved within the project limit, except for the new pavement required over the culvert. The roadway profile will remain essentially the same. This drawing shows the cross-section of the proposed roadway and uses arrows to depict the lane use. This is the view you would have as you were driving on the road. Again, the legend indicates the yellow, which is the pavement reconstruction, the brown, which is the guardrail, the green, which are the fill slopes, and the blue, which indicates the proposed granular fill. Route 110 is a 2-lane roadway in this location with 12-foot travel lanes and 9-foot shoulders. This drawing represents a new culvert. This is a cross-sectional view taken as if you were driving along the road into the page. As the legend refers, the yellow is the proposed pavement, the orange is the proposed structure, the blue is the water course, the existing water course, the green is the fill over the culvert, and the gray is the proposed substructure, which includes the head walls, wing walls, cutoff walls, and foundations. The brown is the proposed metal beam rail. Additionally, these thin black lines represent what are called baffles. This also shows how steep the culvert is. The baffles will slow the water in the culvert, and the outlet protection will prevent the undermining of the cutoff walls and the erosion of the mud line. The new culvert will be reconstructed in its existing location, which adds to the complexity of construction. Additionally, there is an average of 11 foot of fill above the culvert, which also makes it more difficult to build. The next 2 slides help to explain how the culvert will be built. The orientation of this slide again is a cross-sectional view as if you're driving into the page. This slide shows stage 1 of construction. During this stage, 2 rows of temporary earth retaining system will be constructed and installed, as shown in red. A precast concrete barrier curb will be placed adjacent to the temporary earth retaining system, and the roadway width will be reduced to one 12-foot lane with 2-foot shoulders. This will allow for the removal, the demolition of the existing 72-foot-inch pipe and the construction of the new box culvert. Finally, the new roadway fill and pavement structure will be constructed. Traffic will be controlled in a temporary traffic signal, which will stop traffic in one direction and allow traffic in the other direction to proceed. Then the opposite direction will be allowed to proceed while the opposing traffic is stopped. This will be further explained in the upcoming slides. This is stage 2, and it's similar. The temporary earth retaining system that was installed in stage 1 will remain to protect the newly constructed roadway and fill. A 12-foot travel lane will be established with 2-foot shoulders. This will allow for the demolition of the remainder of the 72-inch diameter metal culvert and allow for the construction of the new box culvert, the new roadway fill, and finally the pavement. Traffic control will be the same as in stage 1. This slide shows in plan view from above, as if looking down on the roadway, how the temporary traffic control plan will be implemented. The traffic signal heads show the locations of the traffic signals. The hatched box is the work area. The black and white striped line is the precast concrete barrier curb, which protects the work area. In the direction of Route 110, you can see that at the culvert, there's only room for one lane, as was previously described. Beyond the culvert, the traffic will transition into the appropriate lane. As a temporary signal to the left is red, southbound traffic will proceed, go through that 12-foot lane, and continue in the southbound lane. As the temporary signal to the right is red, the northbound traffic will proceed, go into the opposite direction in the 12-foot lane, and transition back into the appropriate lane for northbound traffic. At the Shelton Cove condo complex, a temporary signal will allow the cars to enter the stream of traffic, either right or left, as both signals along Route 110 will be red. This slide shows stage 2, which is similar. During this stage, when the traffic signal to the left is red, the southbound traffic will enter into that 12-foot lane and then transition back into the appropriate lane for southbound traffic. When the traffic signal to the right is red, the northbound traffic will proceed through that 12-foot lane and continue in the appropriate lane for the northbound direction. The signal at the condo complex will operate as it did in stage 1. This slide helps to explain the need for right-of-way on this project. Temporary access roads are needed to allow the contractor to fully access the site. The access roads are shown in gray, and the gray and white blocks represent temporary earth retaining systems, which would contain the fill of the access roads. The red lines indicate the right-of-way to be acquired to build the access roads and to construct a portion of the outlet protection. The access roads will be removed and the site will be restored after construction. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Matt Giannakopoulos. Matt.
Thanks, Joy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Giannakopoulos. I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights of Way. So it's our office's responsibility to acquire all the property rights that are needed to allow transportation projects to move forward. So as Julie just outlined, this project will require the acquisition of some right-of-way, some property rights. So I'm here tonight just to give you a brief overview of the department's right-of-way acquisition process. Keep in mind, we are early in the design, so the impacts that were presented here may change a little bit as the design moves forward. Any property rights that end up being required will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E. And whenever there is federal money used in any phase of a project, the department must adhere to the Uniform Act. Julie, if you transition to the next slide. Once the design has progressed to the point where we know exactly what property rights we need to allow the project to move forward, each affected property owner will receive a letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map, which will depict the exact rights to be acquired. At that point, we will determine the fair market value of those rights, and we use that to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer is then sent out to the property owner in writing, and agent from our office is available to meet with the property owner, and they can explain the project, the impacts to the property owner's property, and explain how the state came up with their offer. The property owner has a reasonable time to consider the offer and enter into negotiations, if they so choose. Once an agreement is reached, the department prepares all the necessary paperwork to transfer those property rights, and they'll file a deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if negotiations reach an impasse, in order to allow the project to move forward, the department may acquire the rights it needs through its power of eminent domain. And so what happens in that case is the department files a notice in the local superior court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the department's offer of just compensation. The property owner would have 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they thought that the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner elects to use their right to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time. So I know a lot of times people hear the word eminent domain and they think it means the state just takes their whole property for $1 or no money, but that's not the case. All property owners are entitled to at least that offer of just compensation, and the department only takes the property rights that it needs to allow the project to move forward. Once the project has been completed, the state releases all the temporary rights that we acquired for construction, and all of the interest revert back to the owner. I'll be here to answer any questions on the process during the Q&A, but in the meantime, I'm going to hand it back to Brianna to conclude the presentation.
Thanks, Matt. Some additional items that we wanted to note for the project are related to utilities, rights of way, and environmental impacts. And please note that the impacts presented are preliminary at this point and are subject to change as design progresses. For utility impacts, so the overhead utilities will need to be temporarily relocated to perform construction activities, and the underground utilities will be maintained during construction. As mentioned previously, there will be temporary and permanent property impacts associated with this project. There will also be wetland and watercourse impacts for construction of the access roads, the riprap apron, and handling water operations, as Julie had mentioned. And it's anticipated at this time that an Army Corps self-verification, a deep general permit for water resource construction activities, and deep individual flood management certification will be required. Under NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, the project appears to qualify as a categorical exclusion due to the project's minimal environmental impacts. And lastly, on this slide, I just wanted to know there is the new federal infrastructure bill has certain mandates for improvements for pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and Connecticut DOT has therefore recently issued a complete streets policy partially to that effect, and this project will be evaluated under this policy for additional bicycle and pedestrian considerations as design progresses. And I will also present the preliminary project costs and schedule, which are also subject to change. We anticipate that construction will begin in April 2026 and last through December 2026. The project website and newspaper ads for this meeting had stated that the construction cost was approximately $3.6 million. And after recent design reviews, the anticipated construction cost was updated to about $4 million. And the project will be funded with both federal and state funds. And so that concludes the presentation for tonight's meeting. We will now move into the open forum portion for your comments and questions. As a reminder, you can enter your questions into the Zoom Q&A window. And you can also email the following email address, dotproject126-179@ct.gov, or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail, and the project team will get to them as soon as we can. I also wanted to just remind everyone that the comment period will be open through October 5th. Should you think of a question after the meeting, you can email the project email dotproject126-179@ct.gov or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail to ask a question. And if you're leaving a voicemail after tonight's meeting, please be sure to mention the project number 126-179 so that the question can be routed to our team. All right, we did have a question come in. It says, as a resident of Shelton Cove, this will certainly represent an inconvenience for the 9 months of construction. Even so, I would like to thank the DOT for its work in restoring our at-risk infrastructure and ensuring safe roadways for ourselves and our families. Thank you. And Julie, I saw that you'd like to speak to this.
Yeah, of course, just say thank you for your understanding.
Yes. Yeah, and Julie, I didn't know if you wanted to speak to the, I guess you had mentioned the signal.
Yeah,
That
we'll
will-
accommodate the residents, and the
Yes.
same will be true that, of course, when the light where the heads are is green, you'll be able also to turn in without any opposition. So it might actually work easier to get in and out. Although there'll be a little bit of a queue along Route 110.
And while we wait for some additional questions, I'll just mention again, If you're able to, following the meeting, please fill out our brief post-meeting survey, and that can be found on the project website, which is shown on the slide now. And your feedback just helps us improve the virtual meeting process in the future. So we would greatly appreciate your participation with that. And I'll mention as well that the project website also has, it'll have the recording of tonight's meeting after the meeting concludes, and we'll also have some of the graphics that were shown in tonight's presentation and all the ways that you can reach out to us during the comment period as well. And we'll wait a few more minutes to see if there are any more questions that come in. You can either enter your questions into the Q&A window, send an email to the project email, or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. All right, we got another question. So the question was, are the residents of Shelton Cove considered property owners and be compensated? Matt, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So we do anticipate there being some impacts to the condo property, the community property. So we are under the process of doing a title search to determine exactly who owns that. It's usually owned by the condo association. So that's who we would deal with when compensating for the property. So we wouldn't be going out to each individual condo owner and compensating them, but it would be through most likely the association or whoever owns the communal property. Hopefully that answers your question. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll wait a couple of more minutes to see if any more questions come in. All right, it looks like that is it for questions for tonight. Thank you everyone for attending and your participation in tonight's virtual public information meeting. We appreciate everyone's time and input and questions and your patience as well at the beginning when we are having some technical difficulties. As I said previously, we will be monitoring the phone and email address during the comment period, which is through October 5th. A link to the project website. I will post that to the chat just so that you all have that. Let me just get that for you all. Sorry, that. Put that in the chat for the attendees here. And so I just posted that. And we are looking forward to a successful project here in Shelton. So thank you again, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, Brianna.